Tauranga-based around New Zealand paddler Tim Taylor is set to attempt to break the Guinness World kayaking record. Since circumnavigating New Zealand in 2010-2012 in a solo sea kayaking expedition, Tim's been searching for his next challenge.
I was actually running around the mount about this time last year, and I don't know what, but out of nowhere I thought, I wonder what the world record for kayaking is, and that night I got home and I started searching them, and this is the record I came up with, and I thought, that's a bit of me.
Researching ocean paddling records, Tim discovered the greatest distance covered in 24 hours kayaking on the ocean was 194.1 kilometres. He was also very surprised to discover it was set in 1986, the year Tim was born.
Yeah, just really excited and stoked everyone's down here this morning. So, got the weather, now we just got to do the miles. Yeah. So you're going to average 10 k's an hour.
Today, Tim's setting off to break the record in a course that will see him start at Pilot Bay, Mount Maunganui, head out of Tauranga Harbour up the Coromandel Peninsula for 100 kilometres, turn around at Cathedral Cove and head home. En route, he'll pass Coro hotspots, Waihi, Whangamata, Tairua and Hotwater Beach.
3, 2, 1.
My background is I kayaked around New Zealand, but up until August last year I'd never even sat in a surf ski. But when I started talking to different people about it, and eventually I got a sponsor, and they just said, here's the ski, go out and learn how to use it. And it much like my New Zealand trip, it started over in the Waiwa River, which is just on the other side of Tauranga here, and I just started doing laps up and down it, getting familiar with it, and then when I was confident I started heading out into the ocean and learning how to run downwind, and and ultimately over the main summer period it was just every day doing 30-40 k's, just banging it out and getting really fit.
During his New Zealand expedition, his biggest day that was covered was 98 kilometres in 13.5 hours with a kayak loaded with supplies. His average pace is 11.4 kilometres an hour. To break the record, Tim's calculated he'll need to average 9.1 kilometres an hour for 24 hours, so he's on target at the moment. The wind's blowing on the nose for about 2 hours now. That will be making this mammoth challenge a little harder for Tim, but he's used to adversity when paddling around New Zealand.
We've done about 28.5 kilometres from the mount, from Pilot Bay, and we're just off Waihi Beach now.
As we approach Waihi Beach, the wind's changing around, creating a bit of side chop, but Tim's holding his form and pace. Tim's averaging over 11 kilometres an hour. We have a GPS on the ski to be able to track his whole attempt and all the telemetry that comes with that. The support boat is critical for Tim to achieve this world record. He just couldn't physically carry enough food or drink, so the plan is for the boat to pull alongside every hour and fuel me up with Tim's instructions. The team on the boat is also essential to the record attempt, recording a number of details for Guinness Book of Records, so everyone had a role to play as an official observer, time of day, elapsed time, photos and video, and witnesses.
Everything's working well and no complaints.
Throughout today, the conditions are changing. The rough Coromandel coastline with the lofty ranges are causing the wind to constantly change, serving up a mixed bag of conditions.
What's been happening for you fellas then?
We're coming up to 3:30 p.m. and over 7 hours of kayaking up the Coromandel, approaching Tairua, Pauanui at about 80 kilometres. Tim will take a break about 4 p.m. at the 8-hour mark. The stopwatches, the clock and a logbook are part of the formal timing.
I'm paddling into a current right now. Yeah, you can see it, so
I think, yeah, once the wind drops off a bit more, it'll make it nice for the evening paddle back.
87.3 Ks.
87.3 Ks.
How many?
87.3.
87.3, okay.
And what's your speed?
11.4.
11.4.
Same as last time.
Yeah.
As we move into the evening, hour 8 and close to Hotwater Beach, the conditions are settling down, allowing Tim to focus on his technique and covering off as many miles before darkness hits and his pace possibly slows. After roughly 9 hours of being coated in salt spray, you can see the white of the salt crystal starting to build up on Tim's shoulders. Not a problem on the shoulders, but the water and salt works its way into places like armpits, where they cause chafing. A change of clothes will be necessary soon.
We are coming up to Hotwater Beach, and we're crossing obviously Whitianga and then the hole in the wall. Tim's talking about keeping going until he hits the 100k mark, which is 13, 12 k's away, and then we'll give him another feed and he'll keep going until he hits the 12-hour mark before he turns around.
Houston, we have a swimmer. Hotwater Beach. It seems Tim's had a moment of inattention and subsequently rolled out. The crew's had a bit of a giggle, as it's happened in one of the more calmer patches, and it just goes to show how tippy those racing skis are. The racing skis are over 6 metres long and weigh around 10 kilograms, but offer no stability, especially after a long day of paddling. It's 5:16 p.m, just over 9 hours into the record attempt. Tim's decided to turn on dusk at about the 100k mark. If he can make it back to Tauranga in 24 hours, he will have broken the world record. Talking to Tim before heading off on the second half of the record, there seems to be a real mix of emotions. He's feeling amazing after the first 100 kilometres, so feeling confident, but is also acutely aware that the second 100 kilometres won't be easy paddling through the night and battling fatigue, which he thinks will catch up with him sooner or later. Tim does have in his tank all those thousands of kilometres paddling around New Zealand as a base for this attempt.
It's nice that the wind's dropped off.
So we'll see you at 8. It's a long stint.
Paddling a surf ski in the dark is incredibly hard, as you rely on your sight and the view of the horizon for balance. Any glimmer of light is amplified on the water, but the moonless night and no city lights makes this task all the more difficult. Tim's also got to contend with his eyes adjusting to the light after a food stop, leaving a fully lit support boat and trying to adjust to the darkness of the moonless open ocean. We're back off Tairua for another feed just after 8 p.m. It's hour 12. 1 kilometre offshore, 10.9 kilometres an hour is his average speed for the last hour. Tim's mentioned his body is telling him what it wants, something sweet. Sometimes it's savoury, and other times he can barely keep anything down at all. Tim's mind is solid at the moment, handling the task in hand, but how his body's energy levels hold this pace will be interesting to monitor as we come close to midnight and the last 8 hours of this world record challenge. We are now into the early morning, and Tim's saying he's hitting the first wall. It's hard to see it here, but his movements are becoming laboured and simple questions are taking longer to answer. Thankfully, his support crew has the routine well established, and all he has to do is paddle, eat and drink.
Headwind at the moment. Just swirls around though. I need to go down different bays and stuff. 10.5.
And distance?
145.
145. 145, 10.5.
Do with your spare hours.
I reckon we'll just gap it down Padma. Yeah, just straight line down there.
Watch?
Oh, no, don't worry, this one's got heaps.
That one. Tara and Waihi Beach.
Okay, what, 10 k's from Waihi?
Just get him
with the record just about in hand, it's looking very positive. Tim's talking about paddling beyond his start point at Mount Maunganui and stretching the paddle and record down to Papamoa Beach. 10.4 kilometres an hour at the 153k mark. Tim's in for a change of clothes. The first time he's got off the ski. Getting the salt out of the joints and a set of warmer clothes. Great thinking. 16 hours. Tim's off the coast of Waihi Beach, and with wind funnels out to sea and a moving tide out of the harbour, it has become extremely rough. There are large breaking waves which have caused him to become saturated and possibly dangerously cold. Looks like the early stages of hypothermia. Tim's decided to get changed into warmer clothing during his hourly pit stop. Tim's just commented in the cabin, "You would be amazed at how different I felt. Food, sitting in the boat and fresh clothes. I was half dead. I can now live the dream and power towards the end."
10.3.
10.3.
168.
168.
The body's pretty tight and the hands are pretty sore, but mentally feeling really good now that I've warmed up and back in the zone. It says in the rules that when you pass the existing record, you need to make a note of it. So if you guys think I've done 195 Ks, then put a note in the time.
Are you a lot warmer, Tim?
Way warmer.
Yeah.
But almost getting too hot.
Oh, okay. That's good. We were worried.
Go boy. Hey!
Good tip. You can do it.
Gonna fill up.
That's the mount.
There's the mount, the black spot between the lights. The starting point yesterday morning. Now at 19 hours and 59 minutes into the challenge and soon to break the existing 24-hour world record in just over 20 hours.
Another 8 Ks for the record.
Tim's GPS has 8 kilometres left to break the world record. The boat's GPS a little shorter, only because it rounded a rock up the top of Coro while Tim cut through a gap.
What?
10 kilometres to the mount. That's an estimated time of arrival of around 5 a.m.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How you feeling, Tim?
The body's feeling pretty wound up, yeah. But it's a mental game at the moment, so yeah, and thankfully the head is in a good place and it's just a case of, yeah, putting up with the pain.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your readings?
176
176.
and 10.2
10.2.
to the mount and then carry on.
Yeah. We get you at about 188, Tim.
So,
Tim, some guy was up at Hohentown watching you at 3:30, watching us pass.
Keep it going, mate. You can do awesome stuff.
We can now easily see the silhouette of the mount in the lights ahead.
Tim, you've broken the record.
5 a.m. and the record is broken. The support boat pulls in close as Tim ticked over the 200 kilometre mark. But no time for celebrations, only the horn and yelling from the crew. Off camera, Tim commented the hour leading up to passing the record was an extremely satisfying one, that he knew without a doubt that he had it in hand and had a couple of hours to spare, so that mentally that was a big boost. Also being back in home territory, a few kilometres off the mount, that he was just enjoying the paddle. Passing the existing record was extremely satisfying, especially, said Tim, as I have so much time to spare. It meant I could now just enjoy the final hours and clock up a few more Ks.
Well, we're on 21 hours of continuous paddling, more or less, and I've been told we've just passed the 200 mark, I think. Pretty stoked, yeah. No one's ever done 200 in an ocean kayak before, so out on the ocean, I mean. So yeah, it's pretty sweet deal. The night's been difficult. Yeah, it took me about 3 hours to get used to paddling in the dark, and then that all changed when we had to come across the Bowentown bar out in the open again. It was very difficult, quite scary, but it's surprising what you get used to after a while. I haven't seen a lot. I've had a lot of fish run into me. Yeah, I saw a shark. I saw a school of albies that were jumping. That's about it, really. A lot of coast and a lot of darkness. So, looking forward to seeing some sunshine again. Sure. I'll just do another half an hour and then turn around, I think. Pretty well buggered now, so I don't want to go through the entrance.
Oh, it's
Just too knackered.
too tired, yeah, okay.
So maybe we'll just try and aim for somewhere in front of Main Beach to...
The sun's coming up, and Tim knows he's nearing the end of the record. He's reporting his body has started locking up. Papamoa Beach is in the background. People are waking up oblivious to a world record that has just been set by a local. Well done, Tim.
His final turn back to the mount.
Paddling back through the mouth of Tauranga Harbour just isn't a thing Tim wants to contemplate. So the record will be set off Papamoa Beach.
Yeah, well, I can't move anymore, so I'm going to call it quits an hour early. I already know that we've beaten the record, so I'm so cold and my body's so wrecked. I just want to stop.
Yeah.
Tim and Ski are back on board. We motor back to the Mount and Salisbury Wharf for the small but growing welcoming group. Surrounded by friends and family, this is a really special moment for Tim. There are no energy reserves left, and having been awake for 36 hours, there's not much energy left to even display any emotion. As the world awakes, the news gets out, and media gather for some words and a picture or two. Well done to Tim Taylor. It's one thing to paddle at pace in a pack of paddlers, but solo for 214 kilometres in 23 hours, truly remarkable.
Yeah, it's amazing that it stood that long, but after last night I can definitely see why it has stood for so long. It's not an easy feat. We maintained 11.4 k's an hour, which is it's a phenomenal pace. A normal training run for me would be anywhere between 10 and 10.8 if I was really hauling it. So to get that much for 100 k's, I just couldn't believe it. And then coming back, it dropped off between 10.4 and 10.2 for the whole 23 hours. So I was pretty stoked that the body just keeps going. I can't explain it. Basically, that 22 hours, just the body shut down. I hit the wall. I've never felt like that in my life, but I wanted to keep going to the 24-hour mark, and we're just going in circles trying to kill time. I already knew I had the record and a little bit extra, so I was pretty happy. And yeah, I got to 23. I was frozen solid. The body was just ceasing to work, so
hey, it was not worth going any further. I was putting myself in danger really, so we just decided to call it a day, and yeah, here I am.